Today we're going deep into NEOM, Saudi Arabia's $500 billion vision for the future, and specifically into its centerpiece, the line. This isn't a video about renders and promises. This is a video about concrete, cost overruns, and the gap between what a nation announces and what its engineers can actually deliver. We're going to walk through the original design, the engineering challenges that no one had ever solved at this scale, the money that has actually been spent, and the honest 2026 status of a project that was supposed to redefine urban living. Stick with us. The real numbers are more staggering than the marketing ever was. In January 2021, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman unveiled the line as the flagship of NEOM, a planned economic zone roughly the size of Belgium in Tabuk province. The design called for two parallel mirrored walls, 500 meters tall and 200 meters apart, stretching 170 kilometers from the Red Sea coast into the desert interior. Inside, the plan promised vertical farms, a high-speed rail line running the entire length of the city, and a 5-minute city where every resident could reach daily necessities on foot. No roads, no cars, no emissions. The population target, 9 million people, a quarter of Saudi Arabia's entire population at the time. It was pitched as part of Vision 2030, Saudi Arabia's strategy to diversify its economy away from oil. The mirrored facade wasn't just aesthetic. Engineers said it would reflect desert heat and reduce cooling demand, while renewable energy would power the entire structure. On paper, it was one of the boldest urban concepts since Le Corbusier's unbuilt, radiant city a century earlier. The estimated price tag, $500 billion for Phase 1 alone. Construction began in late 2021, and by 2022, drone footage showed real excavation work underway. Trenches cut into the desert floor, foundation piles being driven, and a workforce that at its peak numbered in the tens of thousands. Contracts were signed with major international engineering and architecture firms. Some firms, including SolarWinds, pulled out publicly in 2022, citing concerns tied to reports of human rights issues at the site, including the displacement of the local Hawitat tribe from ancestral land, a controversy that has followed the project since. By 2023 and into 2024, NEOM had reportedly consumed a significant share of the world's available steel supply for a single project. Concrete cores for the first modules were poured. Early mirrored cladding panels were fabricated and tested. This was real, physical construction, not just concept art. But it was also the point where the gap between the 170-kilometer vision and the pace of actual construction became impossible to ignore. Here's the part most coverage skips. Why is a project this ambitious, this hard to build? Start with scale. A continuous mirrored structure, 500 meters tall and 170 kilometers long, has to cross mountains, sand dunes, and varying desert geology. Terrain that shifts dramatically over that distance. A construction method that works over a 2.4-kilometer test section doesn't automatically scale to 170 kilometers. Soil conditions, seismic considerations, and thermal expansion all behave differently at that length. Speaking of thermal expansion, a mirrored glass structure that long, in a desert climate with extreme daytime to nighttime temperature swings, has to account for enormous expansion and contraction forces across its entire length, something no comparable structure has ever attempted. Then there's the mirrored facade itself. Independent engineers and architects raised concerns as early as 2022 about heat gain, glare, and the ecological impact on desert wildlife and migratory bird patterns. Concerns that NEOM's team has pushed back on, but has not fully resolved in public engineering reviews. On top of the physics, there's the labor question. Reports from international media documented difficult working conditions during Saudi Arabia's extreme summer heat. And as costs rose, international contractors reportedly began demanding higher risk premiums to keep crews on site. Engineering problems can usually be solved with money and time. The question NEOM has run into is whether it has enough of either. Let's talk numbers, because this is where the story shifts from architecture to economics. The original Phase 1 budget was roughly $500 billion. According to Bloomberg and Wall Street Journal reporting reviewed for this video, An internal audit projected Phase 1 could actually cost around $370 billion just to reach a reduced version of the original plan. And some analysts, citing typical mega-project cost escalation of 40 to 60%, believe the real figure could land between $520 and $590 billion for Phase 1 alone. Some reports have floated an eventual whole of NEOM figure approaching the trillions if every planned component were completed. As of early 2026, total spending across NEOM is estimated at somewhere between $40 and $60 billion. That's an enormous sum by any normal standard. And it's also a fraction of what the full vision requires. The money problem is tied directly to Saudi Arabia's oil revenue. Economists estimate the kingdom needs oil prices well above $90 a barrel to balance its budget, and even higher to fund mega projects like NEOM on top of regular spending. Through much of 2025 and into 2026, oil prices traded well below that threshold. At the same time, Saudi Arabia is simultaneously funding other giga projects. The world's tallest skyscraper in Jeddah, the Six Flags-anchored entertainment city Qiddiya, the Red Sea tourism resorts, and preparations for Expo 2030 and the 2034 FIFA World Cup. Something had to give. So what does the line actually look like today? According to multiple reports from Reuters, Bloomberg, and industry press reviewed for this video, construction on the line was suspended in September 2025 and, as of the most recent reporting in 2026, has not resumed. What exists on the ground is roughly 2.4 kilometers of foundation and partial concrete cores, a small fraction of the planned 170-kilometer structure. The mirrored cladding that defined the entire visual identity of the project exists almost entirely in renders, not in built form. The population target has been cut dramatically, from 1.5 million residents by 2030 down to under 300,000. NEOM's chief executive has since departed the project, and more than 1,000 employees have reportedly been relocated to Riyadh as the company works to control costs and improve oversight. Saudi officials describe this as a strategic review, a normal part of any multi-year mega-project, not a cancellation. NEOM has publicly stated that the line remains a strategic priority, but independent reporting suggests the full 170-kilometer vision has effectively been pushed to a multi-decade timeline, with some engineers and analysts saying full completion, if it happens at all, may not arrive until the 2040s, 2050s, or later. Not every part of NEOM is struggling equally. Oxagon, the planned floating industrial port, and an associated green hydrogen plant have reportedly made more tangible progress, and NEOM has signed data center partnerships worth billions of dollars as part of a pivot toward industrial and AI infrastructure, rather than the residential megacity that made global headlines in 2021. The line is not a simple story of failure, and it's not a simple story of visionary success either. It sits somewhere in between, a case study in what happens when a civilization-scale ambition meets the physical limits of engineering, labor, geology, and economics all at once. Structures like the Great Pyramid or the Great Wall took generations to build, often at enormous human cost, and were made possible because the societies building them had no alternative use for that labor, and no shareholders demanding returns. The line is being built in a modern economy, financed by a sovereign wealth fund that also needs to generate returns, using a workforce that has other options, on a timeline set by political ambition rather than engineering reality. What we're watching, in real time, is a negotiation between vision and physics. And so far, physics and economics are winning more rounds than the original 2021 blueprint anticipated. Whether the line ever reaches its full 170 kilometers is genuinely uncertain. And anyone who tells you they know for certain either way isn't being honest with you. What is certain is that this project has already changed how the world thinks about what's physically and financially possible in urban design. We'll keep tracking the line as new information comes out, because a project this size doesn't resolve in a single news cycle. If you want to understand the engineering behind the world's most ambitious and most contested mega projects, subscribe to Engineered Future and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next in the desert.